Back to Coming Into Focus. I am your host, Helen Tansey, and today I'm really excited for this conversation. And this one, I have to say, is a little bit personal for me because when I turned 50, I started to notice changes in my body. And I felt like I was doing everything right. I was eating well, I was working out, I was meditating, but there were shifts that were happening in my body that just made me feel really uncomfortable. And so what did I do? I ate less, worked out harder, meditated more, and I started gaining more weight. And for me, this was challenging because I've always been thin all my life. And I know that there's a lot of talk about hormones and menopause, but what started happening was that I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't listening to the wisdom that my body held because I was listening to everybody else. And there were things that saying, eat bananas, don't eat bananas. There was the paleo diet. There were all these different things. And I was just sort of swirling around with what is it that my body needs. But that has changed. And it has changed because I met our guest today. And our guest today is my friend, Jackie. And Jackie is a certified yoga instructor. She is a fitness instructor, and she is also a nutritional coach. And what she has done for me over the last few weeks has been phenomenal. She has helped me get in touch with my body, my mind, my soul, and just start to listen to my body more, listen to what it is that my body needs. And yes, I have lost some weight, and yes, I have lost some inches, but more importantly than that, I have gained a connection. I'm going to get teary-eyed when I say that, but I've gained a connection to my body again, to its wisdom, and I'm listening to it. And that's why I wanted Jackie on the show today, because I have seen nutritionists before, and I feel like it's kind of cookie cutter for me. I feel like they say the same thing, and Jackie's technique is completely different. And Jackie is just this extraordinary, loving, spiritual, kind human being. So Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Helen. So
You're
lovely.
welcome.
So nice.
So before we
Yeah,
get into it, do you mind sharing your age?
of course not. I'm
Okay.
54, proudly
When's your birthday?
54, October. So
Okay.
55 is imminent.
Okay. And how do you feel about aging? Are you comfortable with aging? Do you find it challenging?
You know what? I am very comfortable with aging from the perspective of I'm a breast cancer survivor. So I say that every day is my birthday. I am
Mm,
grateful to still be here. I'm 13 years on the other side. And so aging from that perspective is a gift, right? It's an opportunity. And that part I embrace. The part that I don't embrace is there's lots of changes that come with aging, but I have met them, I feel, with a formula of how to move forward with grace. So lots of activities, some great healthy choices in eating, and like you mentioned, right? Like embracing my body, like meeting it where it is and loving it exactly as it is instead of resisting change. We can't stop aging, right? And I believe we need to age proudly and
yes.
with grace, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the parts you said that you don't embrace everything? Like what are the parts that you find that are like challenging to embrace?
I think it's challenging to realize that we have limitations that arrive just naturally with age. We are definitely not as bouncy as we would have been. We have, or I have in particular, I feel like I have caution built in. I decide whether or not something is worth the jump or those activities that maybe we would have done. So the thing that I can think about most is ice skating. So,
Mm,
maybe did it with a little more joy and bravery previously, and now I'll give it consideration before and think, okay, don't really want to fall, don't
yes.
need to go fast.
Yeah.
Some of those things, right? And our bodies change, our skin is changing, and we're surrounded by images of perfected AI, right? People that are not even real, and
Yeah.
that's who we have to look at. So, yeah, that's hard.
It is hard. And
Yeah.
it's funny and it's hard because I think that even when we voice it, there's this part of us that I find for myself, like, it's not vanity. It's not about the vanity aspect of it for me.
Yeah.
It's just challenging sometimes because I think actually we were talking about this earlier that
Yeah.
when you look in the mirror, the person that you see isn't necessarily how you feel inside.
100%.
And then so
Yeah.
there's a reckoning with that. And you're right. I think that with AI and retouching and then a lot of cosmetic procedures that people are
Yeah.
doing, I think that older women aren't represented enough. It is changing, but I do feel that we need more real women that we can look at because it does make us feel better about ourselves as we age. Like we do that. It's, even when you look at kids, they look for people that have the same interests and stuff, and we gravitate to that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really embracing like lines are a sign of life, right? That we have
Yes.
laughed, we have loved, we have cried. And that's to live, right? To be
Yes.
human is to have emotion. And so without that, and then what does that look like? So knowing and loving those lines in the way that they represent a life well lived, right? And wisdom gained and forward momentum
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you mind before we get into sort of the nutrition
Hmm.
component of this, can
Yeah.
we just step back to what you said earlier about that you're a breast cancer survivor?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. So I was 41 when I was diagnosed, and luckily I found something, went to the family doctor, and the lump that I found was actually benign. But beside the benign growth was lobular carcinoma. So it grows in a chain, it doesn't grow in a lump form. So very hard to detect. It was invasive. So I am very grateful that I found it and found it early. However, at that age and because of the kind that it was, I required a double mastectomy, had a reconstruction done. Um, that much time, 13 years ago, everything was just a little bit different, right? Things have advanced so much. Now
Yeah.
I've watched sort of the progress with gratitude for sure. Um, but it was life altering, right? It was a big moment. I had two little kids, and yeah, it was a surprise, but,
Yeah.
you move how you have to move through something, and, with lots of fortitude and a little bit of a push, though, so that was the learning, right, is that we can't, meet challenges in life without falling back into old habits, right? So that kind of rolls into kind of how I evolved the nutrition piece from a coaching perspective, but just recognizing that we all have default mode and our nervous system is going to do as it needs to do to help you survive and get through. And yeah, it was, a hard time, but also I can see that it brought me some great gifts.
Hmm.
So I'm grateful for the experience for sure.
Which is interesting because not everybody feels that way.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things when we first met, when you shared your story, and you even said something, and please correct me if I'm wrong,
Yep.
that it's been 13 years and you didn't even know if you would make it this far.
No, well, the initial feeling right after a diagnosis, and especially then, was that that was going to be it, that I wasn't going to have um, the possibility of continuing my life. But it was always
Yeah.
the women that I had known who had been diagnosed, it ended with death, right? That was the
Yeah.
end. So that my brain went there. And so I started sort of preparing for that in the strangest ways. When my daughter was 9, and I had this whole concept of I need to prepare her for puberty, and
Right.
I bought a whole bunch of, like, feminine hygiene to put in the cupboard because what if I wasn't there? Which
Oh,
and s
yeah.
saying it, and I say it with a giggle, but, like, that is where I went, and
Yes.
so to come through surgery, I was offered chemotherapy. I didn't require radiation because I had the removal, right? So it was gone from my body, but tamoxifen and follow up. So I did that for 5 years, but I declined chemotherapy. So, there's a statistical formula that's done to determine whether or not chemotherapy is warranted. And they tell you what your average rate of recurrence will be in comparison to if you do and if you don't. And I was more concerned that if I actually did take the chemo, that I would be sick and then I would just end up dying anyways on the other side. So I would rather be well and with my kids for whatever remainder. So that might have been an over the top reaction. Like but it's what I needed to do in that moment. So I just said no to the chemo. And that was when I decided that I needed to change my lifestyle, right? And
Yeah.
embrace a healthier mechanism. And I truly believe food is medicine, right? Our choices are
Yes.
the things that determine our well-being. And yeah, and that was the switch, right? That took me into that direction.
Okay. So
Yeah.
one of the things that you and I do a lot when we talk, if I am, one of the things that I did, and it sounds so silly, maybe even saying that I know you're going to go, it doesn't sound silly, Helen. But
Yes.
for me, I was a
Ever.
big tea drinker, and my
Yes.
tea was like cream and sugar, and I would have about 4 or 5 of them a day, but they were my comfort that I would go to.
Hmm.
You said, when I chose to sort of give them up, it was like, well, what do we do to with that discomfort? And
Hmm.
a lot of times people don't like staying in that discomfort. And like the
Mm-mm.
tea's a small little thing, but even
Yeah.
since we've been working together, I've had a couple of things happen that feel uncomfortable. And you're very good at, sort of encouraging us to stay in that
Yeah.
instead of turning to food, instead of turning to alcohol, or for me, my tea.
Yeah.
And, and the same thing, what you started to do, I mean, we always have choice,
Yeah.
and what do we do? So when we're in those uncomfortable situations, what do we choose? And so you chose, with going through your cancer treatment, to get healthier, which is such a
Yeah.
gift. And
Yeah.
then now with that, you're helping other people get healthier.
And I hope to, right? Like I hope that that is the sort of idea, just like you speaking about the tea, right? It isn't just about food and drink. It's why. It's our
Yeah.
why and why we make the choices we make. And it is, the science is boring and solid, right? The foundation of food and drink, right, is it is what it is, but it's all of our choices come from a place, whether it is to soothe, it is to energize, it is to be well. There's an originating place where the choices come from. And so it's all intertwined. There's no dividing it. So even, choosing healthy certainly came from a place of wanting to have my best, healthiest. I had my kids. I wanted to be around for that. Um, but also in choosing healthy, like, I wasn't necessarily so that was 13 years ago, and I would only say, like, within the last sort of, chunk of consistency of time, so let's just say 5 years, that I have really paid attention and recognized, "Okay, so now I'm aging, so I have
Yeah.
to pay more attention to how I wanna feel, and I wanna be strong, and I want to be able to do all the fun stuff," and, I was having too much of the good stuff, even when I was having good stuff. So we also need to recognize we can still choose good food and use it as a soothing mechanism. So when we're not emotionally stable or happy, like rice, I love rice. I loved rice. I had a
Yeah.
rice cooker. And in retrospect, I can see I overindulged because that's the comfort food, right? So we all
Right.
have something that's like this little hug in a bowl, and too much of a good thing is still too much of a good thing.
And so do you find that a lot of, I mean, with a lot of women, that
Mhm.
it's sort of midlife that these changes start to happen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
Just a
part of it, and it
great big
happens
yes.
even before menopause. Like, I find, like, it's almost like when you hit 40, all of a sudden things start
Yeah.
to slow down a little bit. Uh, and then that's where, I mean, even when you look at breast cancer, I think mammograms are mandatory, not mandatory, but they recommend them, I think, at 50, that you go every year.
Yeah,
I
which
don't know if
is
they
like,
changed that,
it's
but it's
too
when,
late.
yeah, but it's when things start changing in our body.
Mhm.
And it's also when you look at when we're in midlife, it's like, if, I mean, I had my kids later. I had my kids at 40, but usually, the kids leave home. You've been married for a while, you've been in the same job, and it is
Yeah.
like, just that stage of life is, there's a lot of transitions going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know
And
what, like, that's the word, right? It's change. It's
Yes.
transition. We don't have a playbook, right? There's no there's
No.
no map, and it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
So it's what do we choose to do with the discomfort?
Yes.
And wondering if it's us, right? So we go back to, and like I always sort of pre-clarify, it's anecdotal, right? I deal with women lots. I deal with men too, as clients, but obviously the majority are women, and the majority are within that 40 plus age group. And everybody tells a different story. However, the consistency is they are reaching for something to feel better because they
Mm.
are uncomfortable in their lives. And it's the perfect juncture, like you said, like kids are supposed to leave, but they're probably still at home. They have
Mhm.
aging parents, been married for a long time, and things change, or
Yeah.
not married and just trying to figure out life. So hormones shift, habits either are ingrained or, are just kind of all over the place and they're not great.
Yes.
So we land somewhere, and either we decide in that moment that it's time to change because we want to feel better. And it's not about the aesthetic of, we talk about skinny, we talk
Yeah.
about the look, but it's not aesthetics. That's really not where um, the biggest driver lies. We just want to feel good, and we have this opportunity to live this life, right? One life, one body, take care of it, and rock it, live,
Yeah.
love, do all the things, because this is the opportunity. But it's grabbing a hold of the opportunity and seeing, right? Taking that first scary step to say, like, I need a little bit of help with this.
Yes.
And I feel alone, and I'm embarrassed, or I don't, and I feel like I can't do it by myself. But we're not supposed to do it by ourselves, right?
No.
We're here
No.
together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel though that, I mean, obviously as we hit 40, our metabolism starts
Yeah.
to slow down in menopause. I remember, I think I shared this with you too. I remember listening to someone, he was a trainer, he was on a podcast, and he said, I wish people would come to me when it was 5 pounds. But
Mm.
usually they come to me when it's 30 pounds because
Yeah.
it's much easier to deal with it then. But I think that there's also this message that we receive as women is that, oh, well, this is just a part of getting older. You just have to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
You have to deal with the weight gain. You have to deal
Yeah.
with the mood fluctuations. You have to deal with all these sorts of things. And I remember I shared that with you, and you were like, no.
No.
If you
100%
want
no.
to lose weight, if you want to get stronger, whatever it is, it's not too late to do that.
It's never too late, right?
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, it's not a diet, right? So we are not trying fads or finds or something we saw on the internet. It's not a social media thing. This is just a lifestyle of making great choices. And if you decide to do it, you can do it. You can be it. You can
Yeah.
make all the great choices. And I most certainly now, so 54, I am in the best shape of my life. I'm stronger than I've ever been, um, mentally and physically. Like I would never have guessed it. So like my 20-year-old self would never have, because it was that old mythology around, oh, well, you've had children, so you're never going to be able to have a small waist again, or you're
Yes.
not going to have a flat stomach, or, and you're like, really, if you think about when we were in our 20s and what 50-year-olds look like, right? It was that, well, you better cut your hair. And you and I are here
Yeah.
to say, don't cut your hair.
Yeah.
Like, right? It's like, you don't have to do anything. This does not have
Yeah.
to be. There are no rules, right? I don't
No.
accept and don't accept other people's stories. Like, we tend to believe and have self-limiting thoughts because we've been told for so long.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm here to say, like, you can be and do and feel your best because you want to. So you just need to prioritize you. So that's the other piece, right? Women are, I'm gonna say it, in servitude to everybody else for a really long time, right? We
Yes.
we have kids, we have spouses, partners, parents, like it goes on and on. And we are driven to be helpers, right? And to always put everybody else first.
Yes.
um, I often hear, even when I'm working with a client, they're like, oh, but what I'm making, my kids want macaroni and cheese, and I just try to say, like, well, if they're hungry, they're going to eat what we make for them. And you're actually doing a really good thing by giving them solid, healthy, whole food. but we've learned that we love each other with food, and that love comes from refined sugar products, right?
Yes.
Chocolate, Valentine's Day chocolate cake,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
tied together, and it's so tied together. Like, it's all tied
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does it work then? Because one of the things when you came to the studio, when I was
Mhm.
doing your photos, and
Yes.
we started talking, and I was sharing with you that I felt uncomfortable. I felt like I was like, my body wasn't the body that I was used
Yeah.
to. And I think that's what I shared with you, where my doctor said, well, Helen, you look great. You just have to get comfortable with this. And that's when you had said, no, you don't.
Yeah.
But one of the things I shared with you is that, I'm trying really hard. Like I'm eating less, I'm working out more.
Mhm.
And you started talking to me, and we all know it, but you explained it in a way of the stress that we're putting on our
Yeah.
bodies, which
Yeah.
actually adds to more weight gain. So doing those HIIT classes and exhausting ourselves. And
Yeah.
one of the scariest things for me is when we started, doing the food journaling. And then I met with you a week later, and you said, okay, you need to eat more. And I remember having this initial, like, what? And
Yeah.
I don't have an eating disorder. I've always
Nope.
eaten, but as I got older, I do sort of eat less. I was eating smaller because I was gaining weight, and I'm still working out, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And
Yeah.
I have been eating more. I eat about 3 to 4
Yes.
meals a day, and I'm
Yay!
and I'm losing weight. But more
Yeah.
importantly than that, the weight, like I feel better. I have more energy. I'm not as tired. I feel clean, like on the inside. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there's this energy that I have. So I want if you could just take us through that about
Okay.
how women we just sort of go on this hamster wheel of trying all these different things, and we're
Yeah.
actually doing more damage to ourselves.
Well, and, it's you are so in particular, like to speak to you because you gave the example, and, it's that old story of in order to lose weight, we need to eat less, which is in order to lose weight, we need to be in a calorie deficit. Correct. There's no denying that, right? It's simple math from that perspective. But we can eat less calories, but eat more food because we're eating good food, right? High quality nutrition, macro, micro, like we've got all the good stuff happening in volume though. So if you're only giving your body a little bit of something and your body's in stress response or in survival mode, it's going to hold on to every last piece and ounce of body fat that you have available because it's that moment of, and it sounds silly, but it's true. Like our nervous systems are primitive. So the example always is if the dinosaur is going to come and grab us, we need to be ready to go. So
Mhm.
we hold because this is how we're built. So we hold on to all of the energy, which is the fat, right? Or whatever extras we've got hanging on. And no matter if you are doing all the right things, right? You are eating less, even when we eat really well, it can happen. Um, we're just going to be in a holding pattern because survival mode is most important and digestion goes on the back burner, as does all of the other sort of body functions. So it affects fertility, it affects like blood pressure, right? All of our body bits are going to respond to survival mode and they're going to brace and they're going to hold. Physically, we feel this like when people's backs are bugging them or their necks or whatever, that's that bracing moment. Um, so when we can build in, so, you are the best example of someone who, and I'm hoping it's okay that I say this, but has a mindfulness practice, right? So building in breath. And, that's where I come in from the yoga piece is that it's such an essential piece of calming, down regulating nervous system. So all body parts can start to fire the way we need them to. Nervous system works properly, body lets go, right? So then it all flows the way it needs to. So all those nutrients, all that food, all the good things that you're giving your body, suddenly the body goes, okay, so yeah, now I've got all the good stuff. I don't need to hold. I'm getting food because the other piece is when we give ourselves just a little bit of stuff, then the body's saying, oh, are we in starvation? Is there hardly any food? Are we not going to the next village to pick some things up?
Mm.
So I better hold again. So abundance. So when you in the morning in particular, so if you eat a little bit of something, so a lot of people will say, I don't like breakfast or I can't make time. But even a little bit of like a little bit of Greek yogurt, a little bit of berries, have a little couple of nuts. And like when I mean little, the body will go, okay, oh, I have food. I don't need to stress out. We can calm the cortisol down and let's move forward with our day. And then the engine starts to go. So we
Right.
are a vehicle. We need fuel. It needs to be high quality octane fuel. And then blood sugar stabilizes and we can roll with the day. Brain's working, all systems firing on go.
Right.
But we
So,
have to support it.
yeah. And so then what does it do then when we restrict ourselves? How does that disconnect us from our body's wisdom? So when we
Well, it's
restrict ourselves from eating
yes,
things or yeah, like
like restrictively from a perspective of like taking things off your list kind of thing, like things that you were
or
villainizing.
more like when we restrict ourselves, we're disconnecting from something, right? Like from listening to our bodies. Like I think that it's almost like these blinders come in. It's like this door shuts and it's like, okay, I'm not going to eat this. But then when we do that, we're not listening to our body anymore when it's
No.
telling us that we're hungry,
Yes. Yeah. Well, and
right?
we, so as a hurdle, an obstacle, we actually, kind of grow through our lives by disconnecting from our bodies, right? We learn
Yeah.
to not like our bodies. And so we live in our brain. And sometimes restricting, right, is about punishing self. And then when we overindulge, like it's a cycle. Um, and we miss what does hungry feel like. So, you know, I spend like quite a bit of time on helping people let themselves be hungry, like
Yeah.
find physical hungry so that you know the difference between physical hungry and emotional hungry. And
Yes.
especially women, as when we've had children, we go through this period of time where we're eating because they're eating, we're eating what they're eating. It's noon, so it's lunchtime. Let's all have food. And okay, well, the kids didn't finish that, so I'm going to finish it because it's wasteful not to eat that. Um, we are sort of told don't travel without snacks because kids need snacks. And so if kids are
Yeah.
having snacks, mom's having snacks, and we no longer let ourselves be hungry. We came to a place in society where hungry was not a good thing, but it's
Mm.
an incredibly important feedback from your body to know that you are fueling properly, that you are working as an engine, right? So that hunger feeling, that actual physical tummy growly actually tells you, right, you're in a great place. Your engines are firing and working, and that it's not an emergency. It's just a sensation, right? It's
Yeah.
just a feeling so that you can then have a very mindful awareness of when we're hungry, we want food. Right. So I would say, like in the evening, people say, well, I need a snack. And I'm like, well, are you actually hungry? Because if you're actually hungry, you'll eat those carrots that are
Right.
sitting there. But they're like, no, we want ABC that comes from a package that's going to give me a good feeling of love. And so that's emotional. That has nothing to do with
Yes.
food. Yes.
Yes. I
So
noticed that
very different.
I shared that with you when I have a show that I love to watch, and when I
Yes.
do, it's like I'm like Pavlov's dog. When I watch TV, it's like I always
Yeah.
like to have a snack. So
Yes.
what I do sometimes, and I don't restrict I restrict myself, but not I think that's an important thing to say too. Like if you want to have something, if you want that piece of
Yes.
chocolate cake or those
You should have it.
chips, just ask yourself, why am I having this? How am I going to feel about it? Because the worst thing is when you do it and then you beat yourself up
Yeah.
after. Like
There's
when I
no
go to a
gain.
movie, I'm going to have my popcorn with
Yeah.
butter, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you're not going to the movies every other night. That is not
Yes.
the thing you're doing
Yeah.
consistently. So this is all about consistency. So it's making great choices 90% of the time so that 10% of the time, there's lots of space, right? To have those meaningful, symbolic foods, moments, celebratory. And it is never supposed to be about don't have.
Yes.
It's off limits unless it's a trigger. So like there's certain foods when you're trying to work towards a goal, right? So let's just say you have a goal in mind, then there may be trigger foods that you just shouldn't have in your house, right? So that if they're not there, they can't be consumed. You know that there's no nutritional value. We're just going to avoid them for a while until we get to where we want to be. And then we introduce back slowly, right? With respect. Like I always say, respect these foods. But
Mm,
if you like pasta, include pasta in your rotation because if you don't, you are going to overindulge in it at some point, right? It's about
yeah.
balance. And again, that's that whole this is a life. This isn't a moment. We are going to build it all in. There's no foods that are off limits. Just there's better choices and better ways to fuel your body.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think you're right because I think that when we're younger, perhaps we do all this work on, working out and eating well because we want to look good aesthetically.
Yeah.
And as you get
Yeah.
older, it's not that we don't want to look good aesthetically, it's that longevity piece. And it's
Yes.
about, and for me, going back to the tea, it wasn't the tea, it was like the sugar, because I know the
Mhm.
linkage of sugar towards
Mhm. Mhm.
cancer and all these other
Yeah.
things. And so it was like, it was just sort of like it was time that I really wanted to get clean.
Yeah.
Um, but and one of the harder things for me, and I want you to talk about this, was the protein
Okay.
element because we're
Yeah.
hearing a lot about how women we need more protein
Yeah.
um and that still is, I think I'm not completely on my mark of how much I should be having, but I'm getting there.
Yes, you
But
are.
making like
You're
four
good.
eggs instead of two eggs, or
Mhm.
eating, like, it was just sort of but it's amazing the difference that it's making in my life. Like, I do feel stronger, I do have more energy. And can you just talk to us a little bit about the importance of the
Yeah,
protein?
absolutely. And so first, so excited, right? So I think what I love about your articulation there is that you tied protein to having more energy and feeling stronger. So we eat protein, we eat all good things just because our body makes cells from that. That's how we build our body. So, so awesome to have a body built from whole foods, right? That protein, but letting yourself off the hook a little bit about the how much. So yes, there's a push right now, right? And um so important because especially I find women for whatever reason, and I don't actually know if there's science back there, if anyone's studied, but why women in particular don't eat enough protein, I can't quite figure out.
Mm,
Um, it's I don't know if it's a not like thing, like maybe it's just that meat is for men. I don't know if there's like a built-in story there of some
yeah,
sort,
yeah,
but the protein piece, I try to remind everybody, this is a scale of better choices. So every time you eat, if you can think about or find about or incorporate protein into that meal, that snack, whatever it is, so that we keep increasing the protein. But there's protein in other places. So when you're eating a whole food selection, you're getting protein in your fats, you're getting protein in your carbs, hopefully. We get it from lots of different solid choices so that the focus on that, everyone, the Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, everyone knows about cottage cheese right now. So, like, it's, yes, we need more, but we need balance. Okay. So we
yeah,
can't do go all in, but this is our tendency. This is our human tendency. Now we're on the protein ride, and then we're going to get off of it, and something else is going to be the
yes.
thing. So it's recognizing that whatever we eat, our body makes cells from. So protein, veg, carbon, fat combination from a whole food perspective, always encouraging whole food, but like just do your best, right? It's that do your best with what you've got every day and notice, right? It's
Yes.
see the improvements, which will motivate you to then make those choices consistently, which is what we're looking for.
And the
And you're doing
protein,
well.
and thank you. And the
Yeah.
protein helps also with building muscle.
Oh, 100, yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
we need protein in order to build muscles. So even if you were at the gym and working out and can't figure out why, not only are you not eating probably enough protein, you're probably just not eating enough of everything, right? So we go through that mindset of I should eat a little bit less so that I have definition, I lose body fat, right? We want to be lean, we want to have a low fat body, lean subcutaneous fat thing going on. It's different if even from a perspective of like if you are bodybuilding and you have a serious, professional fitness focus, that's going to change even the quantities and the which categories we're choosing from. But we are women living lives, and for the most part, like I'll say that we are like average. We'll just normal people
Yeah.
living lives, normal women living lives. So going wild on measuring and that's why like with my coaching we just use our hand to measure.
Yeah.
We are not weighing. I'm not making it difficult, because the more difficult and challenging it is, the less likely you are to commit to consistency forever, right? We don't want to just do this once. I would like you to do this with the rest of your life so that we do have longevity and we have, mobility, functionality, that we can enjoy our um 70s, 80s, 90s, right? Like there's no reason we can't. We just need to commit.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think we're redefining what getting
Yeah.
older is.
Yes.
Because
We're
when you
not getting
said that
older, we're getting
earlier.
better, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah. And as much as
we
I
don't
love the Golden Girls and still do,
yes,
that's
but
not, and they were 50 in
right?
that, right? They were 50
Yes,
and
which is
60 and look at,
horrifying,
I
everybody.
know,
Oh
and they
my
were
gosh.
fabulous. Like I
They were
don't,
fabulous, but the
yeah.
hair. It's
Yeah,
just the
but it's
hair.
just sort of, I think we're redefining
Yeah.
what aging is and how it can be, and how we can be, have more agency for ourselves and our
Yes. We
health.
have choices, and don't accept the
Yeah.
lies and don't accept the stories and don't feel like you can't redefine yourself every morning you wake up if you want to, right? Our history doesn't define ourselves. Our We don't have to hold on to old
Yeah.
programming. We get to reprogram. We
Yeah.
get to begin again every day, right? New start. Start where you are.
And it is funny, I don't know if you noticed it, but I noticed like when I quit drinking or even
Yeah.
eating healthy, that it's almost, I think the eating healthy is changing a bit, but it used to be
Hmm.
like people would look at you like you were weird. But it's
Yeah.
okay to drink beer and have a bag of Doritos. That's normal.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember like even, I've been, meditating for 40 years where people will be like, oh, she's woo woo or she's this or and now
Tree
it's
hugger.
yeah,
Yes.
but it's like,
Yeah.
but that was considered weird where being sort of, not in connection with anything was okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
And
find it
so,
interesting even now that women reclaiming ourselves and sort of saying, I want more for myself and to be
yeah.
healthy, that we're at a time where it's like we're encouraged to do so.
Thank goodness, right? Like
Yeah.
grateful and recognizing it is about all of it, right? So
Yes.
we're reclaiming ourselves in the capacity that we need to know we have a heart and we have a spirit and a soul and um a life that is full when we embrace all the elements.
Yes.
And we are magnets, right? We're magnets for our tribe. Let's call it our tribe. So we shouldn't feel as though we are not doing all the good stuff, that it's weird. It's not weird. We
Yeah,
feel amazing. So we support each other in those choices and those options, and it all matters. It
it
sometimes feels
does.
like a little bit like a full-time job, because, paying attention to our mental health, our heart health, like emotionally, and our
Yes.
physical health has to come together as one unit because it all impacts each other. Um, and it's all equally important in the grand scheme of best life go forward.
So can we talk a little bit about where there's this idea that, when you see it, you'll believe it.
Yes.
But also if, that switching that around, like if you be it, then you will see it.
Yes.
And I find that a lot of the times we can be like, I'll be happy when I lose that
Mhm.
weight, or I'll be
Mhm.
happy when I'll be comfortable with my body. But how can we start to make peace where we are at? And yes, maybe, excuse me, we might make some shifts. Maybe
Mhm.
we won't. We don't know. But how can we just find that peace with where we are and honor our bodies where they are? Because not
Yeah.
everybody, maybe not everybody listening to this is like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine having my wine and doing this and that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that's true because I find I have some people in my life that complain, they're not comfortable in their bodies. And
Yeah.
if I gently suggest, like, well, maybe if you stop drinking or just cut it
Mhm.
down, it's like, no, 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 no. It's right. But I
Yeah.
guess my question is, not how can we make those changes, but at the same time honor where we are right now?
Yeah. So,
Does that make
you know,
sense?
makes total
Okay.
sense, and it's a big question. I think it's probably the most common um obstacle for people. It's the space between knowing that they are wanting something and not
Mhm.
being able to take that first step towards it. And
Mhm.
it's There's a phrase saying that the hell that we know is more comfortable than the heaven that we don't know. So we're
Right.
scared, we stay attached to the discomfort. When we choose to make a change because we are ready, and sometimes we are brought down to the bottom to
Mhm.
like get there to finally say, okay, I'm ready. Um, it's yoga that I sort of lean towards as far as guiding from that place of you need to choose happy, right? We are choosing to be, and we only have now. So, the anxiety lives in the future, anxiety lives in the past. We can't worry ourselves into wellness. We
Yes.
need to every day make a choice. Like every day we wake up, you know, um, you have a practice. Every morning I wake up, I listen to something that puts a positive mindset, practice gratitude, that no matter what, right, you have to choose the day, choose the way. And yeah, you in making a forward plan, right? So part of, how I sort of look at things is that if you don't have a plan, it's just a wish. So you're just going to talk. And
Mhm.
we all know those people who freaking talk about,
Yes.
and stop talking. Okay. So it's not about the words, it's about your actions. So take action to move towards whatever it is that you are trying to become. And we are all just becoming, right? But this is the whole, we talk about, someone quite often, the phrases used is like I'm broken, or those it's
Yes.
I can't because I'm broken. But you're not broken, you're becoming. So those moments of challenge are what actually help us to see we can do hard things, we can move
Yes.
forward, and owning it. And it's not always pretty, and it could be pretty ugly some of the times, right? But we own
Yes.
it. And um happy comes from within. I think that's the biggest yoga thing. Like I just this week taught hand on heart, hand on belly, and close your eyes, feel your breath. You are the breath. We are not the
Yeah.
bodies. We're not the thoughts. Everything need is within us, and we reach outside of self to soothe, right? To
Yeah.
make us feel better. So, like alcohol, I call them dirty carbs. Um, there's lots of ways we try to cover up the discomfort, and the best thing we can do is be with it, right? It has
Yes.
something to teach us, and
Yes.
happy's on the other side of that surrender, always,
Right?
right? Listen without your ears and see without your eyes, right? It's inside,
Yeah.
but we need to move from thinking about it to feeling about it.
Yeah.
It's not out there, it's in there.
And does it have anything to do with, like, there was somebody who wrote a book, like, how big is your why, right? Like, is
Oh,
understanding
huge.
your why, that's a huge part of it,
Yeah,
understanding your why.
yeah. And finding your why, right? That's
Yes.
our reason. And so it's our reason, to create change. You need to know and go back to your why all the time so that
Yeah.
when you lean into choices that aren't necessarily supporting, right, your why, then you have to pause, right? It's the power of the pause to take the moment and go, so why am I doing that again? Like why it's not taking me where I want to go? What is it serving? Um, And maybe even after the conversation, you still make the choice, but it's mindful, right? It's not automatic pilot. It's not doing
Yes.
it because everybody else is doing it, or, really staying connected to self. And we
Yes.
abandon self all the time. And I think as women, it's our choices get made by everybody else. We do what everybody else wants. So when we actually pause and listen, right? Because the whispers are there, the voice is in there
Mhm.
saying what we really need, but we ignore it
Yes.
because, again, everyone else comes first.
Yeah.
So, finding the strength, and again, finding your tribe, like attracting that energy. So we know what we want to be. We know maybe that piece of like seeing the vision, becoming the vision, be the magnet, be the if you want to have a positive mindset and energy, be that energy. You will attract that energy back to you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny, a couple of things came to my mind when you're saying this, is that one was, I think it was Dr. Gary Zukav. I think it was
Yep.
him where he said
Okay.
that if you want to do something, like taking that pause and go, okay, if I, he talked about it more severely. He said, like, let's say somebody wants to have an affair. It's like, okay, if you have an affair, who's it going to affect? If you are
Right.
found out, it's going to affect your family, your kids. They're going to know that you're an adulteress, blah, blah, blah. Is this
Yeah.
something you still want to do? And it's the
Yeah.
same with it. And I kind of have that with things in my life that, what is the effect beyond this moment? So if I mean, I don't drink, but if I were to have that glass of wine,
Yeah.
could I live with the fact that, oh, that's 10 years of sobriety gone? Or
Right.
if I were to, whatever it is, but just taking that thoughtful moment before we just sort of do something and, on
Mhm.
impulse or habit, and take that moment to go, okay, how am I going to feel about this,
Yeah. And so it's
tomorrow
that
or the
moment of
next day?
yeah.
Yeah.
What is it's response and reaction, right? It's always that moment of just be there, be with it. You don't have to do anything.
Yes.
Consider it. And when you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Be
Yeah.
still, right? And that there's so much magic in stillness,
Yes.
truly.
And that's a
And
beautiful thing to say too, because I find that even sometimes how we respond to people, like through emails or messages, it's like sometimes I'm like saying, like, you don't have to respond right away.
no,
You can take that moment and really think about it and not have
eh,
regret.
yeah.
If
And it
you,
will
yeah.
change. It'll change the way. So, like, if I'm sure that everyone's had a moment where they just quick text, sent something they regretted probably. The next day, if you had just waited that 24 hours, you probably wouldn't have sent the text.
Yeah.
So it's the to self, right? Do the same thing. Like, don't be quick to decide something.
Yeah.
Be with it for a little bit before you
Yeah.
make a decision
Yeah.
about your choices.
And then with the choices, when if
Yeah.
somebody, so with the program, with the coaching that you do,
Yes. Yeah.
like for me, I was going to say one of the things that I do now when I watch TV, I bring my yoga mat out and I
Yeah.
stretch while I'm watching TV. So that way I don't, it just
Excellent.
works instead of like
Yeah.
eating, right?
Yeah.
But what are things like if somebody is in a position where, because alcohol does have a lot of calories,
Yeah.
so if it's something that women, need to sort of cut back on their alcohol a bit, like
Yeah.
there's mocktails that you can do, right?
Yep.
Like and sort of do the research and find the things like, what can I, swap this out for instead?
Yes, and, alcohol in particular, it's a big obstacle for sure. It's a big
Yeah.
tool that's used quite often, and, I'm a positive coach, so I try not to take anything away, um, if they are very attached. It's working through to a, opportunity of better choice. Oh, my Siri's just talking to me right now, and I don't know why.
Okay.
Um, so allowing that one better choice to be, um, if you were gonna have 2 drinks tonight, you're just gonna have 1, and then we work through that a little bit, and then if, 1 water for every glass of alcohol, and then next go round, we cut back a little bit more. We introduce a mocktail and decide maybe it's just once a week now. So we're not going to do it every night. We're going to do it, pick a night so that we slowly remove. However, the thing about this whole removal business for whether it's alcohol or it's chocolate or it's sweets or whatever your comfort food is that you're lean in, we need to replace it. So that's why most often nutrition plans don't necessarily work because we're not
Yeah.
addressing the idea that we're using food. So food is a self-soothing mechanism. Drinks are self-soothing, right? It's a coping mechanism. So if I take that away from you, but we don't replace it with something, then you're just going to go back to old habits.
Yeah.
And it isn't just about replacing. So giving a mocktail, it's about understanding why you're drinking and what
Yeah.
is the choice behind the drinking. And if you wanted to create change and feel better, why are we still participating in it? So
Mm.
the psychology behind the choices is very important to look at. And right, again, that's that moving inward. We have to have a little meeting with ourselves and figure out what is it that we really want. And at 40 plus, when we start to drink consistently, we're always in this place of So nervous system is probably overfiring. It's on all the time. Um, we consistently are not making great choices. So we start to live in that bubble. So we don't know what feeling better actually feels like
Mm,
until we do. And then when we can have a little taste of it and recognize, wow, it makes it easier to make better choices as we go. But when we're so used to being in that place, again, it's that comfort of discomfort,
yeah.
and change is hard. Change is hard, period,
Yeah.
but worth it,
Yeah.
100%.
And I
Yeah.
think you also too that the changes, those things, and also consistency.
Yeah.
Because I feel that sometimes we're living in a time where we want things immediately, right? Like even you
Mm.
want to buy something, get it on Amazon, we
Oh,
get it shipped the
yes.
next day,
Yeah.
and even now, and I think Ozempic for is if
Yeah.
people are really struggling, I think it's a great thing.
Yep. It has a
But
place.
people want it quick, and if they don't see the results quick, they like, okay, stop it, and they go to something else and do something else and do something. That's just screwing
Yeah.
with your nervous system, right? So if
Yes,
you
and
can
that's
try to give yourself grace and
yeah,
time and be consistent and just keep showing up for yourself.
the results will follow
Yeah.
always, right? And
Yeah.
doing the things that make you successful. And
Yeah.
everyone's unique. Like, so even though because we see so much, right? There's so much information out there. Just because somebody else did well with it doesn't mean you're going to do well with it.
Yes.
And we don't need to buy 1,000 different supplements to get the results that we're looking for.
Yeah.
We need to simplify, not complicate.
Yes.
Um, and for one obstacle that you come up with for why you can't, come up with a reason why you can, right?
Yeah.
Make it matter, because nothing is impossible. Like I really truly, like, after, seeing many successfully create change and hold their change and ups and downs. Life is going to always be tumultuous, right? We are never going to have this Little House on the Prairie life, right? It's always
Yeah.
going to be something's on the horizon.
Yes.
But when you feel better and your nervous system is in check and you know your own self, you can meet those moments with grace, right? With
Yes.
a solid, stable base. And it's not to say it's not going to be emotional or difficult, but you are better capable of facing that instead of being in an inflamed, heightened, on edge, quick response, reactive sort of self, right? You are a better self when all the body works. So our gut, like our enteric brain, right, the center of self, and people will say, "Oh, I've got GI issues," and yeah, you do, but I bet you also have a lot of stress. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I do. How do you know that?" Well, because that's how
Yeah.
it works, right?
Yeah.
So that gut microbiome talks to your brain, and brain talks to your mouth, and we say and do. And so again, it's that whole, I think that's the thing, it's never just about food, and
No.
we are one complicated but entire amazing being, right,
Yes.
in one package. So it's yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing.
And I think something that I always have to remind myself is that it's not outside of me. It's not
Mm-mm.
that the answers aren't outside of me. The
Nope.
fix isn't, it's within me.
Yeah.
And the more that I can connect to myself and the more that and then you feel empowered. It's like you get your power back, right? You
Yeah.
realize like no, it's not like I am going to see Jackie because she can help me, but she doesn't need to fix me, right?
No, because you're not
I'm
broken.
we're not broken, but
You're
she
not
can guide
broken.
me and she can help me, right?
Yeah,
And I
and
think
hold your
that's the
hand,
thing.
right? Like,
And
it's
hold
that we were
yeah,
never meant to be alone, right? We are built as
community,
community.
right?
Um, so I did a year of my master's in counseling psychology, and I had to do a paper, so it was like a research paper, and I was a yoga teacher at the time, so I naturally leaned towards that. And I asked the question, like, why do people like yoga so much? Like, what is it? And interestingly enough, so not at all what I thought I would find out, but it was community.
Yeah.
And so that is probably the repeated piece of why um, coaching nutrition can be successful, because that person that has struggled on their own now has someone to be with, right? We create this
Yeah.
little community together of two people is community. And then being able to share and talk about and, in a safe place, be real,
Yes.
right? No pomp and circumstance. Like this
Yeah.
is real life. And
And
that
we
is the
need
benefit
each
of
other.
aging. Yeah, we need
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And to be honest and open and,
Yeah. I remember the Dalai Lama once he was saying that why he thinks people are, that there's this sort of epidemic of depression. And he said it used to be, when farmers would farm and they would harvest their crops,
hmm
the neighbors would come, they would all work together, they'd have a big
Yeah.
meal afterwards. Remember when we were growing up, like if a friend was moving, you everybody helped and you bought a case of beer and bought pizza, or when you painted, your friends would come over and
Yes.
and it was all community. But
Yes.
now we can hire painters. We can
hmm
hire, people to move us. We can hire people
hmm
to do our grocery shopping and everything. So we're
Yeah.
becoming more isolated. And as
Yeah.
human beings, we need to be needed, and we also need to need people. And
Yeah.
when you take that out of it, that's what's sort of causing this isolation, and that not sort of being of service for each other is
hmm
causing, depression and anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Which then it all, again, we're in a loop
Yes.
because what do we do when we feel that way? We can all come up with a good thing, an
We have a
example
cup of
of,
tea.
yeah, we have a cup of tea, right? We make some baked goods, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not that that's wrong. It's just that repeated, that becomes the thing we do consistently.
Yeah.
So it's recognizing, you know, that is not the way to feel our best. It has a
No.
place, most definitely, but yeah, we need to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I need you, and I am
Aw,
so
I need you
grateful for
too.
you. Yeah, and I am
And I
thankful
you.
that you are here. And I always love to end the show by asking our guests,
Mm.
like, is there something
Mhm.
that you feel in your heart or soul that you would like to share with the listeners?
I think I would like to share that you, as a listener, all the listeners are more than enough, right? That we are complete, um, we are amazing, and you are capable of doing anything you choose to do, right? So, no obstacles, just opportunities. Okay, breathe
Yeah,
them in, let go of what holds you back. Um, and that surrender is where the freedom is, right? Really embrace.
absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Jackie, I love you.
And I
Thank
love
you
you
for being here,
too.
and I'm very
Thank you.
grateful. And to our listeners, I thank you for being here. Coming into focus, it is an invitation to better understand ourselves, to notice that we are ready to release things that no longer serve us, and to gently shift our focus back to what brings us home to our truest self. Until next time.